I call Claire Curran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'm pleased to take a call on this bill. I was just referring back to the first reading of this bill, where I spoke on the 29th of November 2012, which is quite some time ago. So clearly this bill is, there's been a few hiccups around getting this bill through a long gestation period. A few hiccups in getting it through the select committee process and actually getting it back to the House. And as we heard with my colleague David Shearer, who went through some of the changes that were made, not just at the select committee, but changes that have been made at the last minute at the committee stage, which have resulted in Labor now offering its support for this bill. It has been, I think he described it as a torturous process, and it's torturous in terms of the arguments, but also the length of time that it's taken to get to this point. And Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make an overarching point around this with regards to the context this very week, where the Prime Minister, John Key, is meeting in Fiji with Frank Bainimarama, and where the events of the last 10 years and the suspension of democracy are again high in our collective minds. It is valid to be asking the question, as we speak on this bill this afternoon, to be asking what are the core elements of a civilised society, and what are those essential parts. Our concern has been, through the passage of this bill through the Select Committee and then back to the House, that the disestablishment of two particular commissioner roles, the Equal Employment Opportunity role and the Race Relations role, as full-time appointments, which is what the bill did in its original form, and then making the requirement for there to be a consultation with a minister on whom the Commission reports before determining what their, quote, priority work areas were, did, when all added together, provide the impression and our deep concern around the watering down of the role of the Commission with regards to equal employment opportunities and race relations, and also the sniff of political interference in the role of the Commission, and any suggestion of political interference with the Human Rights Commission is something to be fiercely opposed, which is where you have seen the opposition from the Labor Party on this bill. However, there has been much debate. There has been arguments put and arguments accepted by the government, which has enabled the Labor Party to change its position while still having some reservations, particularly around the requirement to consult with a minister and what the actual implications of that are in law. I've heard what the Minister said this afternoon in the third reading. I read what the Minister said in the second reading about the intent of the bill, but still what the actual law says still carries a lot of weight, Mr. Speaker. But, however, this bill has changed considerably since it was first introduced. The first change that we objected to was to remove those specific commissioner roles, and we strongly opposed that change because removing those positions would have sent a strong signal by the government that they weren't committed to improving race relations or gender equality, and essentially downgrading those important issues. And in the context of this week again, where pay equity has again come back onto the agenda, and the Equal Employment Opportunities Commissioner herself has issued a statement around the importance of the work being done on the Working Party on this. Certainly, this is not an issue that is out of date in any shape or form, and is very current and contemporary, as is the work of the Race Relations Commissioner, Mr Shearer himself, referring to Auckland being the third most multi-diverse cities in the world, I think is what he said. But it is of utmost importance that we do put those issues at the very top of the agenda. So we are very glad that the government has backed down on this. We also understand that that Peter Dunn may have made his support conditional on these changes, and if that is the case, then we thank him for that. We have seen the generalisation of these public roles when key organisations and people are taken away from focusing on a single role and must work on other areas, such as an example was when the Alcohol Advisory Council was merged into the Health Promotion Authority. We have grave concerns about any watering down of those roles. I should also put on the record the support for the creation of a disability commissioner and the importance of that work, and commend the government for its promotion of that. The second objection that we raised was around the number of commissioners, and as my colleague David Shearer mentioned, Jacinda Ardern, our lead spokesperson on this matter and in the Select Committee, wrote to the Minister seeking an assurance that the number of commissioners were not going to be reduced, and that assurance did appear to come back from the Minister, where she said over the last 10 years the Commission has operated with around 4.5 full-time equivalent commissioners. The intent of the changes in the bill is to remove the current prescription about which commissioners can be full-time or part-time, and in delegating extra portfolios to best meet the needs of the Commission. The mix of commissioners will be a matter for the Chief Commissioner to determine. However, we do not anticipate there being any significant changes to the number of commissioners as a result of this legislation. On the face of it, again, that is heartening and has allowed the Labour Party to support this bill, and we will be certainly holding the Minister to her assurances. However, our concerns remain around the consultation and the consultation with a Minister, and I will finally refer to the clause 6, which inserts a new subsection 1b, which states a Commissioner must lead the work of the Commission in any other priority area that is designated by the Chief Commissioner, and the Chief Commissioner may designate an area of work as a priority area only in accordance with the strategic direction and the general nature of activities determined by the Commission under section 7(1). And this is the important phrase, Mr. Speaker, and after consultation with the Minister. That is in the legislation. It's all very well for the Minister to get up today and talk about the intent, but that is in the legislation, and after consultation with the Minister. It is vitally important that the Human Rights Commission remains absolutely independent. It's a core tenet of our democracy. It must be able to give free and frank advice, and it must be absolutely independent of government involvement. We support this bill, but I'm putting on the record today that we still have concerns about this clause in the bill.